Hey everybody, welcome to the channel, and today we're going to be building this barn door. Now what makes this barn door different than some of the other designs out there is it looks similar on both sides. Alright, let's get to it. Get started with the plans. It's always good to have a plan. It's a 48-inch wide door by 84 inches tall. And here's the material list. Make sure you're getting the straightest lumber that you can. It'll make your job a little bit simpler. I know sometimes the big box stores, that's kind of a hard task to do. I'll link in the description below the hardware kit that I use for the door. And you might want to pick up yourself door handle hardware. I've made my own and it turned out wonderful and gave it a little personal touch. So first we have our 2x6 final dimensions. You see it's 5 inches wide by 84 inches long. And we have a 1-inch deep mortise that's 3/4 inches wide on the interior, and you have one for the left and one for the right. Next up is the final dimensions of our 2x8. You'll dimension those down to 6 3/4 inches wide. And they will be overall length of 40 inches wide, with the 1-inch tenon on each side, and then again the same mortise down the interior seam. And if you want to adjust your width of your door, most people aren't using a 48 inches door, you just adjust these dimensions down by 12 inches, say, to get a 36-inch door. And then we have our interior section of the door. This is where you're using your tongue and groove siding, and the 5-inch on the left there just represents the reveal of the pieces, not necessarily the actual dimensions. And they are 72.5 inches long, and I have 8 of those for a 48-inch door. You'll use a few less of those if you do something a little more narrow. And then I used 1x5s because I liked the way it looked a little bit better as far as the wood that I had available, and I thicknessed those down to 3/8 of an inch thick. They were initially a 1-inch board. And we have 2 of those, one for the front and back of each of these. And then on the diagonal, I would not really trust this measurement. The way that I did it is I just laid the board down once the door was done and marked it, and then came back and fit it, which worked out pretty good. All right, for the build list, you're going to need 2x8, 2x6, and car siding. This is 5-inch reveal. It has a bead on one side, and then it's flat on the other. So one side of my door is going to look a little bit different than the other, but that'll be fine with me. For supplies, you're going to need some wood glue. For me, I have some Titebond 3 here. Just so happens to be what I have on hand. You're going to need some brad nails, 1.25 inches. Dealer's choice on how you're going to finish it. And then for tools, I'm going to use a router with a flush bit to trim out a pocket for the door. At least I am. You might use some hardware. Got your sander, brad nailer, hammer, caliper, and I'm going to be using a dado stack to cut my mortise and tenons. You can use anything you so choose, router bit, however it's going to work. For me, I'm going to use the dado stack. And then the big tools, I'm going to use a thickness planer to do the trim boards on the front of the door. We have our jointer. I'm going to use that to make a reference side on our lumber. Table saw and chop saw. Alright, first we get started with planing a reference edge on our 2x6s and 2x8s. And then we start cutting them to length. On the siding, the 72.5 inches, you might take about a quarter off that to give you a little bit of wiggle room. Here we're dimensioning the 2x6s and 2x8s to their final widths, which is 5 inches for the 2x6 and 6 3/4 for the 2x8s. Now I'm putting in the dado stack at 3/4 inches wide. And I'll take 2 passes at these. Take about 1/2 inch the first pass and then a full inch the second pass. Here I'm just testing whether it was in the center with a scrap piece. Now I'm actually doing the boards. First pass on the way. Set my final depth. You can go just a touch past an inch, that way you have a little bit of breathing room. Now I'm doing the tendons on the horizontal pieces. And in between I'll do some test fittings while I was doing that. Now I'm thicknessing the 1x5s down to about 3/8 of an inch. Alright, now we're setting up to glue up the tongue and groove. Then putting some clamps and taking some measurements from time to time just to make sure that we're squared up. Now I'm sanding everything down before we start assembling the outside of the door. Then everything's glued up, assembling the outside pieces. Nice wife comes by and check on me. Clamp it up. Do some measurements just to make sure everything's square, and then nail down the edges with a brad nailer. Now we're doing the center and the other piece. Sanding everything down from 80 to 220. Cleaning up a little leftover glue, clamping and nailing again the edges. Now I used 5/8 inch nails on the 2 trim boards there. Now this is my first attempt at finish, and it didn't come out very well like I liked, and then I ended up just wiping down some water-based stain, and now I'm spraying it with water-based clear. I did 2 sprays, one and then about another 2 hours later, and then I come back and sanded it down with 400 grit just to make it smooth, and did a final stain the following day. Now I'm attaching my wood handle. Picked up a tree branch and cut it down and put a couple dowels in it, and now I'm just drilling. And once I drill this, I'll glue it up, put a clamp on it, let it sit for a couple hours for the glue to dry. Now I'm adding the barn door hardware, putting the metal rail on the backer board and marking the holes. Now when you do yours, you might have to move things around a little bit so you can reach some studs, but I have a header that goes all the way across my door because it used to be a bigger door. So now I'm marking up the spots where the wheels go. Now I made a little bit of error on my plans. Make sure you pay close attention. I got a little extra hole in my door. Screwing those clamps in, bolting them in, I should say. Just making everything, sure that everything is nice and straight. Reading my directions 5 times over and still getting it wrong. Putting in my little anti-jump stoppers on the top. They kind of go towards the front edge, and then on this particular set you can turn them in once you get your door in place. Putting up my backer board up there. Doing it again because I read their instructions wrong. Now we got it up. Now I'm putting the guide in the bottom.
Alright, so I wanted to give you guys a before picture of the sliding barn door, and this is what it used to be like. So it was 2 45-inch doors. I don't need that kind of passway, and I'd like a little, and I wanted more wall space on the inside of the wood shop. So this is basically what it looked like before. Okay, now you've seen the before, and here is the after. 100% better in my opinion. Got a little whiteboard up there now and some of the free space over there, right behind the door. Some projects up there, and here's the door. I really like how the door handle came out. You see I got the branch there that I cut down and put it on the door. Now if we look in the inside, here's what the inside looks like. So as you can see, it's pretty similar, a little bit different here, but just because it's not beadboard on the back, but it's pretty good. And then I got some more space over here for my chop saw now. So looks pretty good. Pretty happy with the outcome. All right, everybody, that's it for the barn door. Appreciate everybody watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time on What's Next DIY.